when you hit your early 70s, you start thinking about everything that you will never know, right? And have never learned and have some regrets. Okay, so I had some regrets that I never learned calculus. Now, Julia, I know you know the calculus. I'm guessing Carmen and I don't. But I do like to read history. So I thought maybe I could read a history of the calculus.
Mm-hmm.
And I did. I downloaded History of the Calculus, and I think I sort of understood about a third of it at most. Because it turns out that it's hard to understand the history of the calculus without understanding the calculus. um, but what I so the notion this whole notion of differential calculus, where there's motion through a point, that's what I'm going to say it, right? Movement through a point through which there is movement. That is so important in the history of everything, history of engineering in particular, right? We wouldn't have the modern world and all the modern stuff we have if it hadn't been for the differential calculus. But what I really took up was, so Plato really got to abstract objects, the theory of forms, right? Really got abstract objects. And the calculus is all about mathematical abstract objects. Okay, why didn't Aristotle, who is clearly the smartest person of his day and maybe of most days, why didn't he could have gotten to the calculus? He could have, right? He could have, and this guy has an argument about how. Don't ask me to repeat it. How Aristotle could have gotten the calculus 2,000 years right before, almost before Leibniz and Newton got to it. There's a whole other issue here about that, right? That these two people at that time, at that moment, right? It's closed the circle on developing a calculus. Anyway, and one in England, one in Germany, and all that shit. So, and it was because, according to this fellow, that Aristotle was attracted to the natural world. He was, at root, he was a biologist, a naturalist. And he couldn't quite detach himself the way Plato could. In fact, he was correcting Plato in some ways. Plato was too abstract, and Aristotle was going to bring things down to earth, genus and species, right? Flora and fauna.
I think Aristotle, even more, just loved to put things in categories. He was a categorizer from day one. And
that's why he never got to calculus.
And there's a lot of categorizing
part of the argument also.
Instinct that I love, because there's a great, I find, emotional, psychological satisfaction in good categorization. But to quote Walter Benjamin, or to slightly misquote him, is that there's a kind of a mild boredom associated with categorization. He actually says associated with organization, which I also understand.